$31 billion. That's a number that just quietly flashed across the financial system in a single moment. And while all the headlines were cheering and the charts were glowing green, this spike appeared almost out of nowhere. And in that one moment, it really changed everything, not just for one asset, but for anyone who still thinks wealth is built by just, following the crowd. It was a signal, a tremor from deep inside the system.
Okay, so let's really dive into this, because this is the whole idea we're unpacking today. That $31 billion figure, it isn't just some scary number meant to make you panic. No, it's information. In a world that is just flooded with noise, these little moments of stress are actually the market talking to us, showing us where the real pressure is building up. The trick isn't to be afraid of these moments, but to learn how to read them. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
So you see, this explainer isn't really about that one repo spike. That's just a symptom. This is about the mindset that separates the builders from the followers. It's about understanding the huge difference between just reacting to the world and actually positioning yourself within it. What we're about to go through is a framework, a new way of seeing the financial world, one that can turn all that stress into a strategic advantage. Welcome! Our entire focus here is to help you do one thing and do it well. Find the real, meaningful signal inside all the noise of global finance. We break down these complex, shaky market events to give you clarity and perspective. If that's a skill you're looking to build, make sure you subscribe so you never miss one of these deep dives. Now, let's start by looking at the system itself and why it's a lot more fragile than most people think. First, we've got to understand the environment we're in. We're constantly told the system is stable, but that feeling of normal, well, it's often incredibly fragile. There's always pressure building up behind the scenes. And the people who don't see those warning signs, they're the ones who get completely blindsided when the surface finally cracks. This isn't just some abstract theory. I remember someone close to me who lost nearly everything they had built over a lifetime. It wasn't because of a bad decision. It was from trusting the headlines and the so-called experts just a little too completely. They believed in that surface-level calm. And when that underlying pressure finally broke through, it didn't just cost them money. It cost them their confidence, their peace of mind. That's what's really at stake here. It's personal.
So what exactly was that $31 billion spike? It happened in what's called the repo market. The best way to think about this market is like the deep, essential plumbing of the financial world. It's where the big institutions go for their short-term cash. So when it gets stressed, it's like the entire system has a cough. It's one of the first and clearest signs that confidence is being tested behind closed doors, long before you'll ever hear about it on the news.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the two different paths people take. When the system coughs, the crowd reacts with panic. They chase the loudest headlines. They make decisions based entirely on fear. But the builder responds differently. They observe. They study the cycles of pressure and release. They stay calm, and they execute a plan that was put in place long before any of this panic even started. This is the fundamental split we're focused on today. And this brings us right to our first pillar, learning to separate the signal from all the noise. This is about making a conscious shift from just reacting to the news to strategically positioning yourself for the bigger structural changes that are coming. This is where real advantage is born. Now, here's the key distinction. The noise, that's today's headline. It's the daily up and down of the market, the latest hot take from an expert. It's loud, it feels urgent, and it's usually insignificant in the long run. Structure, on the other hand, that's the underlying reality. It's the long-term flow of capital, the deep-seated economic behaviors, and the real opportunities that come out of all that. Builders always focus on structure. So what does focusing on structure actually look like? Well, it means prioritizing long-term sustainable cash flow over some quick short-term gain. It means having disciplined risk management in place, not just hoping for the best. It's about building intelligent diversification across different assets and income streams. And maybe the most important part, it requires unwavering patience, the ability to just let your strategy play out while everyone else is chasing the latest fad. Let me give you a real-world example from the source material. There was this young entrepreneur, no special connections or anything, who saw all the market volatility not as a threat, but as information. While everyone else was panicking, he was studying the underlying structural problem, broken supply chains. So he started a logistics business to solve that exact problem. Fast forward 5 years. What everyone else called a crisis, he calls his multi-million-dollar lucky break. He focused on the signal.
This is a good time to pause and ask yourself a question, because we all have things that distract us. Is it the daily stock market ticker, the constant fire hose of news headlines, or maybe it's just opinions from friends and family? I'd love to know. Drop it in the comments below. What's the biggest noise you have a hard time tuning out? It's a challenge we all face.
All right, let's move on to our second pillar, unbreakable habits. Now, if pillar 1 was about looking at the external world, this one is all about your internal foundation. Because when things get chaotic, your personal systems are what carry you through. They are your anchor in any storm. So, here's the crucial point. All those market shocks, economic downturns, unexpected events, they lose a lot of their power when your own personal habits are stable and consistent. Your automatic daily actions, they create a foundation that doesn't care if markets are calm or the news is good. Your discipline becomes the one thing you can truly control, and that gives you immense strength in a world you can't predict.
So what do these habits actually look like? Well, here are 4 to start with. First, automate your investing. Make it happen consistently without emotion getting in the way. Second, commit to learning something every single day so your knowledge compounds just like money. Third, actively practice emotional control. Just pause before you react. And fourth, maintain a daily focus on your long-term goals, not the short-term distraction. This quote from the source material, it's one of the most powerful concepts there is, not just in finance, but in life. We all have these big, ambitious goals, right? But when the pressure hits, we don't magically rise up to meet them. We fall back on our training, on the systems and the habits we've built day in and day out. This is why building the right habits isn't just a good idea. It's the only thing that actually determines where you end up. And you're not alone in thinking this way. Our growing community right here at Bullion Signal is full of builders and strategic thinkers who are just tired of all the noise. The engagement and the thoughtful discussions we see are proof that this calm, disciplined approach is exactly what people are looking for. It's really great to have you be a part of it. I'm really curious to hear your take on this. We listed 4 habits, but of course there are many others. Of all the possible daily disciplines, saving, learning, planning, controlling your emotions, which one do you believe has the single biggest impact on achieving long-term financial freedom? Share your thoughts in the comments. It's a fascinating thing to think about. Okay, so we've now covered 2 absolutely critical pillars for navigating this financial world. But this is just the first half of the blueprint. We've laid the foundation. The next steps are all about how to build on top of it, especially when uncertainty is at its peak. So let's do a quick recap of what we've established here in part 1. First, you've learned to reframe market stress, to see it not as chaos, but as valuable information. That's pillar 1, signal over noise. And second, you've learned that your internal discipline and your daily actions are your ultimate anchor in any storm. That's pillar 2, unbreakable habits. These 2 mindsets, they are the bedrock for everything that comes next. So what's coming up in part 2? Well, that's where we get even more tactical. We're going to dive deep into pillar 3, which is all about how to position yourself when the future feels completely unclear. We'll cover pillar 4, a deep dive into why discipline will always outperform trying to predict the future. And finally, we will reveal the hidden signal, a simple framework for action that you can use to navigate the next cycle. Look, if you only take one single thing away from this first half, let it be this. A calm mind in the middle of chaos is an asset that is more valuable than any currency or commodity. It's the one tool that lets you see opportunity when everyone else only sees fear. It's the source of every single good long-term decision. Protect it
and cultivate it above all else. And let's end part 1 right here with this thought. The signals of system stress, like that repo spike we talked about, they're not going away. In fact, they seem to be getting clearer and more frequent. Now, choosing to ignore them, that is a choice. It's a passive strategy. But choosing to prepare, to learn, and to build a resilient mindset, well, that's also a choice. And which path you follow is entirely up to you.
As always, just a reminder that this is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Our goal is to empower you with perspective. If you found this valuable and you want to be ready for the next part of this blueprint, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. You are not going to want to miss part 2. We'll see you there.